Hello, this is Ruslan Belov. We're starting today's update. The ceasefire isn't really a ceasefire. Fighting continues in some areas, and we're here to analyze the situation on the front lines. Let's open the map. So friends, the ceasefire was short-lived. Officially, it was supposed to last 3 days, but in reality, full-scale fighting resumed in some areas as early as yesterday. And in some places, it never even stopped. Let's break down what's happening now, starting with the areas where there hasn't been a single moment of silence. This is the border area between Russia and Ukraine in Kursk oblast, near the village of Tyotkino. Yes, that same long-suffering Kursk oblast. The Ukrainian armed forces, VSU, were pushed out of Sudzha district, and now they're trying to re-enter, but from a different direction. Fortunately, our forces were prepared this time. The scenario of August 2024 did not repeat itself. And how long have they been here? Almost a week of the VSU battering themselves against the steel defenses of the Russian army. What have they achieved after days of fierce fighting? Practically nothing, or the bare minimum. From the direction of Rizhevka, they managed to enter two outlying streets of the village, Chapayev Street and Pogranitchnaya Street. Right now, intense fighting is unfolding on these streets. The total depth of their advance here is about 500 meters, and the fighting is truly bloody, corpse after corpse. The trenches are literally littered with VSU bodies, no exaggeration. You can follow the link in the description to my Telegram channel and see the footage for yourself, as it can't be shown here. From the Belopolye direction, it could be said that the VSU had more success, but only in numbers. In reality, it's the same story. Look, the VSU managed to cross the border, advance 2.5 kilometers through the fields, and enter another outlying street of Tyotkino, this time from the other side. Fighting is now taking place on Belopolskaya Street. So, while the advance here isn't 500 meters but 2.5 kilometers, in reality you understand that there's no one in these fields now. Otherwise, they'd be turned into mincemeat. No, VSU presence is only confirmed on the outermost Belopolskaya Street. So after 5 days of VSU offensive operations in Kursk Oblast, we have fighting on 3 streets: Chapayev Street, Pogranitchnaya Street, and Belopolskaya Street. Is this a success? Obviously not, especially given the losses they've suffered. Again, I've posted footage of them trying to break through to the border on ATVs, only to be hit. 5 KIA in one strike. Their losses are enormous. Of course, we've also taken losses. A soldier from the area of Novi Put village wrote to me, "The VSU have been trying to advance there too, but in 5 days they haven't even managed to breach the border." There was another brutal battle when they attempted a breakthrough with BMPs and ATVs. We had 2 killed and 10 wounded, while they lost nearly 15 KIA. It's a real meat grinder. Meanwhile, the Russian army has also kicked the VSU out of Belgorod Oblast. And more than that, our forces have gone on the offensive, capturing a village in Sumy Oblast. Before we move on to Belgorod Oblast, I can't help but compare last year's and this year's VSU incursions into Kursk. I remember well how, on May 5th, a lot of panic mongers woke up screaming that we were stepping on the same rake again, that the VSU would seize a bunch of territory, how terrible it was, all was lost, etc. So let's compare the results. 5 days of offensive in August 2024 versus 5 days now. Let's switch to another map. Here we rewind to August 2024. So 5 days from the 6th brings us to August 11th. And what do we see? A huge swath of territory was under VSU control back then. I could understand the panic mongers back then because there was real reason for panic. The depth of the Ukrainian armed forces' penetration into Kursk Oblast was almost 30 kilometers, and they controlled 480 square kilometers in just 5 days. And now? What do we see now? Fighting is happening over 3 streets in the border village of Tyotkino. Even if we count the fields as VSU controlled, though they're not, as some American cartographers depict, we're looking at about 7 square kilometers. That's the extent of VSU control after 5 days of offensive. In short, nothing worked out, and it's already clear that nothing will. I don't think they'll even be able to take Tyotkino. As for our border guards and soldiers defending the area, they're heroes. Now, regarding Belgorod Oblast. Look here, the entire territory has been fully cleared. At their peak, the VSU controlled about 12 square kilometers here, entering two villages, Popovka and Demidovka. First, our forces drove them out of these villages, then cleared all the surrounding tree lines. As a result, the VSU no longer controls a single square meter in Belgorod Oblast. More than that, after clearing the area, our army went on the offensive, crossed the border into Sumy Oblast, entered the village of Marina, and drove the VSU out. Thus, the village is now fully under our control, with a total advance depth of 1.5 kilometers. But the offensive continues, meaning this number will grow. Apart from the border areas, there are also several sectors where full-scale combat is already underway, even though there's supposedly one more day of ceasefire, particularly the Pokrovsk direction. It's also worth noting the Toretsk area, where the VSU tried yesterday to exploit the ceasefire to improve their positions. But they didn't improve anything, unless you count improving the soil by becoming fertilizer. So look, the entire group here was taken out, and there's corresponding footage showing how it happened. They advanced in this specific area. As a result, 2 APCs were destroyed, along with 3 IFVs, and 1 armored vehicle Kazakh was burned. The personnel losses amount to at least 11 killed and about 10 more wounded. This is just what can be identified from the video footage. So their attempt to launch an offensive during the ceasefire failed. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Telegram channels have started screaming, "How could the Russian army break the ceasefire? We have casualties," and so on. But listen, if they had stayed put and hadn't tried to make a raid and take control of the grey zone under cover of the ceasefire, everyone would still be alive. But someone, maybe the local command of the Ukrainian armed forces, thought they were smarter than everyone else. They decided, hey, we have a ceasefire, so let's move out with IFVs, APCs and armored cars and grab that territory, the grey zone, which belongs to no one. But in the end, it all turned into a real bloodbath. Meanwhile, on our side, in the Pokrovsky direction, everything is going well. You can see it here, progress. We managed to advance over 1 kilometer into the residential area of Zverevo, and as you can see, half the village is already under our full control, while the other half is a grey zone, with the Ukrainian forces hiding only on the outskirts, down in basements. That's their only presence in Zverevo. What's next? Next after Zverevo is the village of Pershitravnia, and beyond that, as you can see, is the city of Pokrovsk. Also, fighting continues on the Bohatyr front section, and we're seeing success there too. As you can see, now not only the southern, but also the eastern outskirts of the village have come under our control. The battles are ongoing, but it's clear that the preliminary airstrikes carried out here are paying off. It seemed the advance would be slow and difficult, but now we see the Ukrainian forces gradually pulling back. The southern and eastern outskirts of the village are now under our steady and full control. Now, a few words about politics. The presence of world leaders at the parade in Moscow marked the failure of the West's attempt to isolate Russia, writes the Washington Post. The military parade, attended by global leaders, signified a victory for Putin as a leader whom the West tried to isolate, the outlet says. In attendance were Chinese leader Xi Jinping, the president of Brazil, and leaders from Slovakia, Serbia, Egypt, Vietnam, Venezuela, and a number of other countries that Moscow refers to as friendly. Their presence demonstrated that Western efforts to isolate and defeat Russia have failed. It portrays Russia as an important part of the world, unisolated with many partners and friends, and shows that the West does not dominate the global agenda with its narratives. There was no implementation of the ceasefire declared by Vladimir Putin for the Victory Day celebrations, reports Alexander Sladkov. How could there be? Kyiv is attacking us in the Belgorod and Kursk directions. We're successfully repelling the attacks. The situation is difficult. The Ukrainian armed forces tried their hardest to ruin our holiday, but Kiev has no real strength for a full-scale invasion. We remember how tough it was to push them out of the Kursk region, and we're doing everything to prevent the Ukrainians from gaining any foothold in Russia. Kiev is losing a lot. The advance of Russian forces in the Sumy region continues. It hasn't stopped. We're also actively attacking in the Kharkiv region and other directions. These staged shows are costing Kyiv dearly. The effect for the country's population is negative. wrote Alexander Sladkov. Well, that's all I have for today regarding the frontline situation. I wish you a good day off, take care of yourselves, and see you tomorrow.